welcome to the Forward Onto Dawn podcast. I'm David, and I'm joined by my usual co-host, Danny.
Idly hodly.
And this is episode 30. We're recording on July 29th. And this is the, I guess, post-Outpost Discovery show. Danny, sadly, trapped in the land they call Europe, was not able to make it to Outpost Discovery and is not going to be an Outpost Discovery, but luckily I, being more terrestrial in the land of America, was able to go to Philly, Outpost Philly.
If they bring it over here, I'll go. That's fair, isn't it?
I'm going to say 100%. I shouldn't say 100%. 95% confident they're going to do it next year. Whether or not they expand
when I
it.
say bring it over here, I mean like here, not like fucking Madrid or some shit, you know? Here.
How close is here for you, Danny?
The closest it'll probably ever get is it'll probably go to London. You know, that sort of thing makes sense for London, and that's not close, but it would suffice.
How far away is London from you?
I think it doesn't have to fly over the past the water. Like it's over another island. There's two islands here. There's Ireland and then there's Great Britain. It's over there on Great Britain, so it is. I think it doesn't have to fly over the
Well, it turns out
past
Irish
the
people
water.
who
Like it's over another
can't
island.
go to Outpost Discovery was actually a theme
There's two islands here.
at Philly.
There's Ireland and then there's Great
I ended
Britain.
up
It's over
talking
there
with
on Great Britain, so it
the
is.
podcast of Alt folks who have two. Yeah, I think they're both Irish co-hosts who.
Really?
Yeah. They were surprised to hear about you. I was listening to their podcast. Like, wait, they got an Irish person too? Yeah.
Oh, my name hasn't gone down in the community these days. Oh my god. I'm barely a footnote in someone. Oh yeah, that thing. An Irish guy, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
I should have asked Frankie, actually. I don't know. Say Danny says hello and punch him in the gut and run away.
I played like 4 or 5 games of Halo with Frankie, and that's about all I've done with Frankie. But you know what's really pissed me off about Frankie, right? That fucker has popped up my LinkedIn every fucking week for about 6-7 years.
That's a suggested
I don't know
contact.
why. Yeah, that's a suggestion. I'm like, no. Pops up again. Like,
you got contacts in common. That's what LinkedIn does. Expand your network.
I'm not gonna add someone to my LinkedIn because I played 4 or 5 games of Halo with them like 7 years ago. I don't think that qualifies as a professional relationship.
I think you're overthinking how much LinkedIn really wants you to think about their professional relationship.
Oh, it wants me to think all the time, so it does. Like I'm always worried about what LinkedIn thinks about me.
You saw this one person once across the room. Connect.
Hey, you know what's really awesome, right? I've never been to any of those Halo-related activities that you've had the chance to now to go to, but I have a napkin from Halo Fest.
This is true. You've shown me the napkin from Halo Fest.
Yeah,
I did not go to Halo Fest, but I got a grunt plushie. Because Claude scooped up a bunch, so I grabbed one from the.
I think my one's lying somewhere. I think but Ben was really nice. He got me a nice wee care package when he was there, so he was so very thankful of the signed napkin.
Well, now I feel bad that I didn't get you anything.
I'm used to it.
Oh, I didn't wait in line for anything to be signed.
That's okay. I was really sarcastic, and I asked him when he was going, like, oh, pick me up anything, just anything, even a napkin. I can regret saying that.
Should have asked for something better.
I just know he was cackling to himself, and he got, well, I'm here, and there's napkins, so.
Well, it's branded. It works.
Yeah. So, tell me about this thing then. What happened? What'd you do? What was it about?
So, did you pay attention to any of the stuff people were saying about Orlando?
Let's just say I was not.
So, the for people who are listening and not aware. So, Outpost Discovery coming to 5 locations. First one was Orlando, and then there's a weekend skip between all these places, or 2 weeks. And apparently Orlando was kind of a mess in pretty much every way, shape, and form.
What do you mean by mess? Like, well, how was that
Just
mess?
certain things weren't working, lines were super long, etc., etc. So Philadelphia was take 2, and it definitely, speaking with Dust from Podtacular, who is going to every single Outpost Discovery.
That man's a fucking trooper. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, he's, as we'll get into, he's also basically like running half the outpost, essentially, on
Really?
his broad shoulders.
Fair play. This fella like he's a heartbeat working shit.
Yeah, so the good news was that the Philly outpost seemed a lot better run. The lines were not crazy. I think the longest, which we'll get into, was for one of the attractions was like 90 minutes to 2 hours, but most were under 90 minutes, which I think is about as good as you can expect.
Right, so right, before we get into what you were doing there, right? What was the highlights? Like why should I have cared that I wasn't there?
I mean, part of it, like with all these things, is just meeting the fellow people, putting faces to screen names.
Yeah, that's really important actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
And so,
But what kind of officially supported hits was there? Like, was there guest stars? Was there like?
Yeah, see, so that's where I feel kind of bummed out. So, basically, Unishek and Bravo were running the content stage. So they have all the attractions, and they had the content stage and the quote-unquote armory stage, which was basically the community stage where all these panels that Dust came up with resided. And then there was Frankie was there, Kiki was there, Sketch
really?
was there.
That level of people were there? That's awesome.
Well, I feel bummed though because I don't know if it's again like learning from the previous outposts or whatever, but Grim was not there, so Coward would not show his face to me. He skipped Philly. And then for Chicago, they got a bunch of people. Kenneth Peters is going to be there. Greg Bear. They seem to have boosted the guest list considerably.
Oh, so basically you're saying that Frankie and wasn't good enough. You want more? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, they were great, but just it seems like the guest list overall is much larger for Chicago.
Yeah.
But they also at Philly, and I assume they're going to be at most of them because they're probably the biggest draw. Steve Downs and Jen Taylor.
They weren't there, or
no, they
there?
were. So
they were there.
I don't actually
nice.
did not check and see if they're going to be out the other ones, but I assume they would be.
Oh, did you meet Master Chief? Did you meet Master Chief? Oh. Did he remember that we did a thing with him at one point?
No, I did not. I did not like go up and say, "Hey, remember that one time you did that interview with?" Because I was not the guy. That man has done so many interviews.
He probably has. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you being polite." No, I don't.
And that was
sort of
another thing that like there was logistical issues with Orlando. Like apparently, a bunch of people went in line because you have times you could go get autographs with people.
Yeah.
And then they ended up having to do a lottery system because there was unsurprisingly a crazy line. So this time they specifically said only the first like 80 people or whatever in line were guaranteed. Stuff like that. Just logistical things that they smoothed out a lot more.
Yeah, because you never tell whenever you're doing those things. Okay, well these 80 people, will they take an hour or will they take an hour and 20 minutes?
Yeah, and I think they were jiggering it even during the show. Like one of the attractions was supposed to be a 20 versus 20 multiplayer thing. They cut that down to 10 versus 10 just because it was kind of a mess with that many people in there.
Was that like the laser tag thing?
Yeah. Well, so should go over. Just leave your mic on, Danny. God.
I have a fan here. I need to make sure the fan's not actually blowing into the microphone for both our sanities.
Well, I turned off my AC because I'm a trooper like that.
I'm a ginger white pasty dude in summer. I need all the help I can get.
How hot is it there? How hot?
Right, I'll tell you how fucking hot it is. Right, according to my phone, that is the 15 degrees Celsius, so it is. Which is admittingly lower than it was yesterday. It was like 19. Yesterday was 15.
Let's ask Siri.
15.
What is 15 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
59 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, 60 degrees. It is 90 degrees here. Or wait, what is 90 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius?
The answer is 32.2 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, so you cannot complain,
Wow.
Danny.
By the way, the hottest temperature in the UK is like 37 something. It was recorded
Yeah,
yesterday.
global warming. It's a hell of a thing.
That's insane that you're used to 30. I would be a puddle. A blistered puddle.
And we
so
survived the first 2 years up here without AC. I don't know how in retrospect, but anyhow. So aside from the whole experience is basically broken up into, I guess, attractions. So you walk in. It opens with the Hall of History. I should say to begin with that this entire thing, because it's 343, is set up with an in-universe conceit that this is basically like a traveling show for the UNSC. Like, hey, learn about the UNSC and human history and the Covenant War, and hey, why don't you join up? Because we always need more people.
Get into it.
And
yeah, cosplaying. Get into character.
And it's even funnier because the U.S. Army and Air Force had kiosks inside the event too. So there were many layers going on in that respect.
To be fair, of all the things that they would support, Halo's kind of a no-brainer for them. So
yeah, although I mean, what the people going to Halo conventions are not the people I think are really high prospects for joining the armed forces, but maybe that's just me.
That's a very interesting assumption to make there, but continue.
Well, I should say, I was pleasantly surprised by how diverse the people there were. Like, lots of ages, way more women than I expected. Not all just pasty white folks.
I'm really happy to see the demographic shift a wee bit, because to be honest, the people who play the games out there are a diverse bunch. So,
and I think that's definitely partly why they're doing this. Is it's designed to, hey, there were a lot of people bringing their kids, so it's definitely about kind of bringing that new generation Halo fans, trying to create new Halo fans.
Get them addicted to those Halo blocks or whatever when they're young. You know what I mean? Replace the Lego in the house. Yeah. You know what I mean? Get them going.
Well, they had a Mega Bloks section, which I did not partake in because Mega Bloks are just poor man's Legos, and I'll never get over that. But if you wanted,
me neither, sadly. Yeah.
If you wanted, and I've long since passed the time. My brother has them, but I have more Legos than I will ever do anything with, and they're indestructible, so you will pass them down and never need to buy more.
Can I just take one wee moment to reminisce about the Mega Bloks Halo game that we got a painful glimpse at? Rip.
I mean, it might have been terrible, but it did visually it looked great.
It reminded me of the Lego Star Wars games, and that was enough. So it was.
Well, I think that's what everyone was like. Oh, I want a Lego Star Wars except Halo game.
We both buy it. Come on, we're honest here. We both buy it.
Yeah, well, we have to, pretty much. It's like contractual. So anyway, yeah. So the conceit is that this is like a traveling show for the people. And so it opens with the Hall of History, which is a recap of the Human Covenant War, basically, and the insurrection. And they've got a bunch of quote-unquote artifacts there. They've got Noble Six's helmet. They've got a giant full-scale version of an Elite and Master Chief.
See, that's why you go those things. You go there to see that. That sounds awesome to see. Like, I would go somewhere to see that.
They were impressive. There was a Warthog too. They have on the back of one of the panels, they had all the Covenant species lined up so you can see how large they are. And then with all these things, they've got they had the Halo Outpost Discovery app. So basically, you go through all these, because everything's got to be augmented reality now. It's got a scanner ability, so you can scan like these little tags they have on all the exhibits, and they'll pop up little augmented reality views. So like if you're looking at a thing about the Covenant War, you pop the tag and it shows you a turnaround of a Covenant cruiser.
I really hope someone's documented all that in case they sprinkle little lure nuggets that will disappear.
I mean, I would say overall, unless, I mean, it's entirely possible I missed something. Unless someone really looks into it, most of it's just, oh, nice stuff. Like the assault rifle prop, they have a detail about how it was used by an ODST in the defensive tribute. Sort of little details like that. Nothing earth shattering.
Nothing where, yeah.
But details sprinkled throughout. And there's, despite being like, obviously it's a traveling theme park, basically, they did a nice little bit of, there's a lot of nice little fit and finish details throughout that were pretty good. All the event staff are dressed like UNSC scientists, and they respond in character, which is a nice touch. There's little things like the AI Gabriella, who's sort of the AI running the outposts. On the back of her crate, basically, they had like care instructions, like sort of like cleaning logs in bathrooms. They had like tag for here's the last time she was serviced, et cetera, chain of custody stuff. So there are little touches like that were really nice.
Yeah, small wee details like that.
Yeah, and
nice.
then that sort of leads into the ring experience, which is 4 rooms altogether. And they bring you in and they put on little headsets that you just keep on hitting to change the channel as it. And so they have Gabriella narrating as you walk through these different areas. And so the first part is like this little chunk of a ring. I think it's Delta Halo. And so this, along with the Hall of History is Human Covenant War. The ring experience is explaining about the Forerunners. And I think the interesting thing about that is there's always been that question of exactly what regular people in the Halo universe know.
Gonna say, if this is supposed to be a walk-in thing for the public over there in reality, like, it's like,
Yeah, so we know this is supposed to take place sometime between Halo 3 and Halo 4. They're cagey about it, probably because why give a firm date that you might have to change later if you don't have to. But so the first room explains, hey, here's the Forerunners, and these were giant, massive weapons. So Forerunners, what the Halos do, is out there in the open. The second room was a aggressor sentinel, and that actually, all the, like, I'd seen Master Chief, like, you know how big he is, you know how big the elites are, you know how big the grunts are. The sentinels are huge. That was the one thing that did impress me with life size, how big those things are, and that was really cool because I'd never seen any of the props like that out there. So that was a nice surprise.
yeah, come to think of it, I don't have any frame of reference for the size of a sentinel.
Yeah, I'll put some pictures I took, and you can get sort of an idea for the scale in the show notes. But one of the tidbits there is the quote unquote, this is supposed to be a real deactivated specimen that was 80,000 years old. And they say like between 7 and 8 million sentinels on the average ring, which is a lot of sentinels. And that's counting everything like aggressors, retrievers, enforcers, et cetera, et cetera.
Toilet cleaners, yeah.
Constructors, not toilet cleaners. Use the proper name. And then the third room has the icon from Delta Halo, a facsimile of 343 Guilty Spark, who's big, but that one I knew as much, and then a Flood Infector infection form, which is bigger than you expect. It's the Halo 2 anniversary style, so it looks extra gnarly.
It's nice when they remember the flood, though. That's nice.
Yeah, that's the thing. So civilians apparently know about the flood. They kind of soft pedal, like the suggestion is sort of, all right, well, the flood was a problem, and thanks to Master Chief, they're not anymore. I don't think, like, they don't say, oh, by the way, that's the reason half of Africa or whatever got glassed. They don't explain that.
You might want to explain that, though. It's like,
Well, that's UNSC gonna UNSC, not explaining everything. So yeah, it seems like the true extent of the flood threat is kept under wraps. And in here also, like the rest there are the augmented reality stuff, so you can see it, and all basically the scanning stuff for these sections all ties into basically like achievements in the app. So if you found all the hidden Gabriella caches or whatever, basically, and you scanned them, you got a dog tag, and you could get up to like, I don't know, like a dozen dog tags for completing all these achievements.
what do you get for doing all the achievements?
I mean, I don't know what they had, like leaderboards and stuff. I don't know if you completed everything, if you got something special or not. The app was not working for me the first day, which I realized later is because I had
Of course it wasn't.
no, because I had downloaded an old version. 1.1 was still screwed up. 1.2 was still screwed up. 1.3 actually worked, but I wasn't going to run around. Like, you had to go into lines to get all the caches and stuff, and there were achievements based on each attraction you went through and stuff like that I wasn't really gonna. I'm a completionist about some stuff, but not finicky web apps for my Outpost experience.
Yeah.
But then the final room of the ring experience is a 360-degree, I don't know, cyclorama, whatever. You're looking up at the ceiling, and it's supposed to be a quote-unquote live feed from these honeybee unmanned drones that are currently surveying a Halo ring. They don't say exactly which one's supposed to be. It kind of feels like it should be Installation 07 just because they have some of the space rhinos from Infinite's trailer make an appearance, as do the blind wolves and some. I think there was like the space whale that got cut from Halo 4 was also in there. Yeah, so it's cool. You go kind of just waltzing through different parts of the ring from the outside to the inside. It definitely feels like.
Do you think they may have used a certain game to get some footage from, maybe? Share some assets across for
That
us?
was a good question. Like, some of it felt they had a panel talking with the people. So there's Herschel or Hershend, who's the event company that's actually running Outpost and Discovery. And then there's this third company that basically created the ring experience specifically. And it was lots of impressive numbers for how crazy and time consuming it was. Like 24,000 render hours would have taken like 1,500 years on a home PC to render it all out. 100 terabytes just of assets.
Flexing that Microsoft muscle, Jesus.
Yeah. They have like they go into inside the ring, and it's very much ripped from Halo Wars, the part where the Spirit of Fire is traveling through and getting cleaned. It had Halo 3 style retriever sentinels, which was interesting too, not like the Halo Wars 2 style. And then it ends with the Master Chief, which is technically not actually canonically supposed to be Master Chief, but a Spartan and a Warthog overlooking this vista, which kind of looks like it's basically the temple complex from Halo 2, just with more Tron Runner glowy line stuff. So my guess is mostly it was all basically generated themselves based on like sketches and stuff versus
Based on existing
actual
stuff, yeah.
models, is my guess.
Well, if they did that independently, then that's
Yeah,
actually kind of
I mean
awesome.
it's definitely
That's
cool.
definitely kinda awesome.
And so the Hall of History and Ring experience are sort of like the intro to Halo. if you go through that, you can pretty much they go through the entire basic story of the games. When you're in the 360 section, they have like cutscenes from Halo Wars coming up when they're explaining stuff. It's pretty nicely done. They had, for people who do not handle those, they give you guardrails while you're watching this. So I guess some people don't get turned around, and they made sure, like, if you need to leave for any reason, doors right here. Do not vomit in here, basically right out there. But it was very cool. So then the other attractions they had is they've got a target range, which is basically a target range, like, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, with Boomco guns. They have Pelican training, which is they stick you and a bunch of people into a shipping container that's dressed sort of like a pelican, and you have to stop it from crashing, like hitting knobs, and it's kind of like a Bop It. Like that's a multi-person Bop It is kind of what I felt like it was.
Not what I would think is Pelican training, but okay, multi-person Bop It.
That's my bad description. There's the Covenant Escape, which is an escape room thing. The lore there is that it's a chunk of a Covenant, not a cruiser. What's the smaller one? No, I'm blanking.
I don't like the idea of an escape room.
Yeah, I did not actually go in it just because the lines were generally long, and that was apparently supposed to be like, some people said it was really easy, or they had problems with it, like they went through it so fast that they basically broke the game because the AI glitched out. You weren't supposed to do it that fast. But yeah, it's basically a chunk of a Foreigner or a Covenant ship that they're doing exercises in, basically give you a feel of what boarding action's like. Then there's the training grounds, which was basically like Halo multiplayer in VR. I think it was 3v3, and that definitely had the longest line. But the advantage of being in the long line was you got to watch how absolutely hilariously dumb everyone looks like when they're playing it, because it's really only, I mean, it's probably like a 12-foot by 12-foot area that they fit people in. So in the VR landscape, it's filled with all these walls and stuff, so you can't just shoot at each other, and there aren't good sight lines. But in reality, everyone's really close to each other, looking like an idiot, and it's hilarious. And that's why I don't believe VR is the future of gaming.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound something fun in all fairness. Some people like paint gun stuff, and that's, some people like it.
People liked it. They were going back for it. But I think better was the combat deck, which was basically laser tag. They built these bespoke assault rifle style guns that like they come with little sounds. They come with a little shield beeping when your shield gets low and you have to sit and recharge. You have to reload them. If you get shot, you have to go to a corner, point your gun at a light, and you respawn after 3 seconds, complete with the sounds. So I think it was actually a better encapsulation of bringing the Halo experience to the real world. And then they had complete with they had really hilarious introduction videos. The guys running it were actually a lot of fun, and they had their own little spiel complete with jokey stuff, but they also had little pre-filmed segments outside explaining the do's and don'ts, like don't point your laser right in people's eyes and stuff like that. My favorite part was they have the guy who's really trying to channel Sergeant Johnson explaining how there's absolutely no fancy parkour stunts allowed on my combat deck, and I just wonder what incident happened that they specifically had to call out no parkour. I like to think about the legal reasons for that. So then they had like a merch area. They had a food court. Apparently they had really good grilled cheese, but I'm not a sucker. I did not pay for convention food. And then they had the content stage. So that was the main area. So they were doing mixer streams. they would have people from the community come up, play with Uni and Bravo on all the games, burn through them, get your ice unicorn skin for playing. And then they also had the panels there. So like I said, there was a panel behind the ring experience. There was the Steve Jones and Jen Taylor one. There was the Halo game show, which Dust is running, which was, have you ever played Password?
Password?
All right, so Dust came up with a bunch of games. What they played was Password and Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, I feel, is pretty self-explanatory. It's just Halo-themed clues, and he actually had a little wheel you could spin, and there were monitors set up so people could see what the answers were, and Dust could just hit little things to reveal the letters, which was a lot of fun. And then there was Password, which the idea is you give them a name, or you give them one word. It's 2 teams of 2 facing off, and the other person knows, one person knows the word, the other person doesn't, and the person who knows has to give clues that are only one word too. So if you had like Cortana, you could say AI, you could say blue, you could say etc. And that was the advantage of the game show was mostly that it's the fun of screaming at the dumb people on your television, except you get to do it in real life, because people were having real issues with it. Like I think my favorite was you could tell there were no real lore people up on stage because it was kilo was the word they had to guess, and they got, like, some people suggested like, oh, Foxtrot 5, stuff like that. But like the clues progressively got worse. Like at one point it became alcohol, it became cocaine.
What?
Which, well, it's a kilo of cocaine. I could see where they thought it made sense, but because they didn't actually know what they were trying to hit, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
There was also the question was Spartans, and like they'd been dancing around it, and then finally one guy says 300, and everyone's like, he's gonna get it, and the other guy says overshield, and there's this like howl of disgust from the audience. So it was a lot of fun. And then they had gaming stations, so you could play Halo Reach on PC. Spoiler alert, it plays like Halo Reach, except on PC. I could not get used to the controls, but that's because I'm a weird person who likes shooters on controllers. But it looked great. That 60 FPS and removal of temporal aliasing.
I like controllers and shooters on my PC, man. That's the choice you get.
Yeah, well, you'll be able to do that stuff when it comes. They had a area where if you really just wanted to come and play Halo with a bunch of people in a LAN setting, you could have done that. Especially on Friday when I was over there, it was not busy at all, so you could pretty much have stayed there, camped out and played Halo if you really wanted to.
If there's food nearby, you're set for the whole time.
Yeah, and then they had a center section that was run by the 405th. So they did a cosplay contest while you're there, where the top prize was like best in show was $2,000. So, I mean, cosplay is expensive, but that was a nice chunk of change if you could make it back.
Wait. They run the cosplay contest and they give the winner $2,000. Isn't it just like one of their guys who wins it all the time because they're like really good at stuff?
Well, they had a bunch of categories, and they basically like gave, like, they had their finalists or whatever. They prejudged them, and then they had the finalist walk across the stage, and they interviewed everyone. And I mean, they spread it out. The winner was, unsurprisingly, a Master Chief, but there were some good ones. Like there was a Master Chief crossed with Captain America crossover, which I quite liked. There was also a BioShock Infinite crossed with Halo crossover. So there was the Elizabeth Cortana, and then Booker Chief. So it was steampunky Halo, which I liked. And then there were like your classic ODSTs and stuff like that. I mean, it all looks great. It looks really uncomfortable. and in the armory stage, so in the 405th area was the armory stage, and that's where the fan panels basically ran. So on Friday, I was part of Dust's community panel. So it was me, Sal, Halo fan for life, guys from I'm gonna blank on it, Silver from Halo Completionist, and I'm blanking on the last guy. But we did a community panel there. The 405th did a couple like explaining intro to cosplay and making your own armor, which is cool and also terrifyingly intimidating. And then on Saturday we did the Halo podcasting panel too. So that had Silver, it had the guys from Podcast Evolved, hung out with Oren from there, he was really cool. And who else am I forgetting? Drunken Halo was there. Halo Conversationalists, yeah. And so that was a lot of fun too. Downside of the panels was they were by the main content stage, so it was loud. Probably the people in the audience could hear because they had the speakers pointed to them, but the panelists could not hear each other very well. Yeah, and the other
Wow,
downside of
really?
what they did is
That's bad.
they did something like on Saturday, the podcast panel was literally the first thing when the show opened for general admission, which means A, lots of people are going to be in line outside. And because they gave general admission tickets to the panelists, that meant like they had to like, oh wait, we need to have these people get escorted in early, otherwise they can't set up. And then once people got in, no one's going to want to go to a panel. They're going to want to beat lines to get to attractions. So there were some organizational issues there that I hope they work out for Chicago or whatever. But overall, the panels went well. And like I said, Dust basically runs half of these things. So he's putting out a good amount of outpost content that's not the actual attractions. So he deserves major kudos for that.
Yeah, fair play. Like if he's doing that much backbreaking for it, like definitely.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else there was. Oh, on Saturday, I'm not sure who made it, but someone put a exuberant witness for president poster out by the convention center, which I quite enjoyed. Make Genesis great again. And then I guess one of the highlights was Saturday. Hung out with another podtacular guy, Bobby, and Dust and his wife, and we got to play a game of laser tag with 343. Our team got crushed.
They might have the upper hand. I'd say, yeah.
Well, no, it was they kind of split us up. So I was on Uni's team with a bunch of other guys. We didn't do terribly. But after that, the 343 guys teamed up on one team and went against the Hershund guys, the people actually running the training deck, and they got absolutely slaughtered. Which was kind of hilarious. I mean, it makes sense because these guys literally just play the combat deck all the time, and they've been traveling to all these things. But they were racking up so many kills that they weren't even fitting on the scoreboard anymore. They pinned him down. At one point, we were recording, and Dust has the footage, so he might do a video of it at some point. But we were recording in there, and they were using Dust as a human shield while they were walking around. So the event guys were pros, and they absolutely dominated 343. But it was a lot of fun. Said hi to Frankie. He found his cheesesteaks. Life was good.
Hope you didn't. No one actually participated in teabagging. It doesn't work in real life.
Yeah, I believe they specifically. I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure they specifically said no teabagging for the combat deck. Either way, that'd been a terrible idea because it's actually. Well, it's interesting because it. I think one of the reasons they dropped it down to 10v10 was because if you get more people in there, it basically does become a game of spawn camping, and it's really about trapping people and like collapsing spawn. So in some ways, it's actually perfectly illustrative of competitive Halo. because you basically just cut down their sight lines, stop people from breaking out, and then you can pick them off as soon as they pop their heads out.
I'm sure any team trapped in there would have had the bestest time ever.
I mean, it would be over quick. I think the regular sessions were only like 4 minutes or something. We were playing a longer one with 343 because them's the perks. But yeah, if you were gonna get murdered, it's over faster than a regular Halo game, at least.
I hope there's like a mercy rule as well.
I don't think there was. That was another nice touch, though, is that each of the guns had a name or a number attached to them. So at the end, there was a post-game Carnage report where you could see kills, deaths, and assists based on your number.
Really? That's a nice
you
touch.
could. It's somehow tied into the app, and you could get. Actually, I should look because I haven't yet deleted the Halo Outpost. Yeah, there were little things. So not only did the scanning thing not work, but the original version of the app had all the items in the map arranged totally improperly for Philly. But luckily, they fixed all that stuff. It worked out in the end.
As long as it works out.
Yeah, like scoring top and certain things got you points and stuff, and you can use that for.
Yeah, you get sweet wallpaper for your phone or something, or a ringtone.
Well, that's one of those things is that you couldn't actually link the app with your gamer tag, so they had to kind of like do hockey things after the events to if you got awards that are supposed to go to your avatar or whatever. There's just things that had not been ironed out, and so they had to just cut them.
Well, that's the thing that happens. You have to plan for it. It sounds like they did.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume Chicago will be slightly better performing, etc. I think one of the big things they did for Philly was I'm pretty sure they actually capped the number of people lower than they originally had because Saturday passes sold out. So Friday and Sunday it was not crazy. Saturday was busy, but it was not crazy. And that probably helped a whole lot. And they sent little happy surveys afterwards saying, "Hey, what did you like? What did you not like?" So they're definitely listening, and hopefully we'll get a new and improved version next year that comes to. Is Dublin close enough for you, Danny?
Yes, that's that. I could pop on a train. Remember to Dublin? That's
You don't have to
easy,
cross
fast.
a body of water that's too far for you.
No, I only have to technically cross an international border.
Technically.
Technically.
So crossing an international border is easier for you than a body of water.
Yes, because it's on the same damn island.
That's just like I have friends and family who live in the Maryland side of geography lesson for people. The capital of the United States, Washington D.C., is specifically between Virginia and Maryland, and there's a river running through it. People on
Yeah, because I see those places pop up in films.
yeah, which is
Virginia and Maryland related to nearby.
which is hilarious if you know about it. Like, because my recent hilarious geography makes no sense in movies thing was in Spider-Man: Homecoming. They have Peter's class is heading south to DC, which means they are going through Maryland to get to DC. But somehow their bus ends up going all the way around the Beltway to Virginia because the Pretty Bridge entrance into Washington, D.C. is Memorial Bridge on the Virginia side. So they added like an hour to their bus trip.
All right, if that's the most unrealistic thing about the film, I think it's doing pretty well for itself.
No, that's just the thing I get to be all indignant about because I don't know anything about superhumans with spider strength, but I know basic geography of Washington, D.C.
I thought it was a treat seeing London getting torn to in the film. You don't see enough UK. Like London's pretty much the only place you could probably do it where you would recognize it. Maybe.
No, it got blown up in Star Trek Into Darkness.
But that's the thing, right? You can't imagine anywhere else in the UK. I can't imagine somewhere like Manchester City just getting the shit blown out of it, or Hull, or Belfast. Well, that doesn't really need help. But
I think the problem there is that you don't have recognizable tall buildings. If you're going to destroy a city, you need tall buildings.
we don't have tall buildings much over here, especially over in the wee islands. Like, we don't like tall over here. We're very against it.
I mean, you guys don't have tall in general. Like when I went to Frankfurt for our honeymoon, our Airbnb host was a really nice guy. Host was a really nice guy, but he was at one point ghost.
I was like,
Yeah,
you got free
ghost.
ghost?
Yeah.
I missed out the whole time? Jesus. I pay for my ghosts?
Our Airbnb host was a really nice guy, but he was like at one point telling us about how we had to go see the skyline because the central business district of Frankfurt has the nicest skyline of continental Europe. And like you look out and like this looks like suburban Virginia to me. Like that's great. I'm here for your 1,000-year-old like castles and churches and stuff, not stuff I can find in a 20-minute trip at home. But anyhow, Outpost Discovery. That's about it.
You guys love your tall shit over there.
Damn right.
But you're over in Ireland for a bit. You remember it being small, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a layover in Dublin. It wasn't a day. I did not really get to experience it.
But you can see in your eye as you looked out, it's like Aaron's tiny.
I mean, but it's the thing. It's quaint and picturesque and stuff. I don't register that it doesn't have tall buildings because once again, I don't care about the tall buildings because I got plenty of that at home. It's what you're not used to that you're looking for.
I think Dublin's tiny. It feels very cramped, so it does.
Okay, how big is it compared to where you live?
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah,
like I live, where I live is literally a street. That's it. It's a street. They built a wee town around one street.
See, that makes it sound like you're in like some little English village that suffers a disproportionate number of like murders that like some Agatha Christie protagonist works there.
Oh, that sounds very quaint. Replace murders with sectarian violence and drunken louts, and you're closer to the punch than you are.
It's Northern Ireland.
This is it was summer. No, summer is over here. Parade season. Oh, parade season. You don't know why they're marching, but they're marching. There are always parades going up somewhere, down somewhere.
I did see when we were in Dublin, there was some like, I assume it was like a unification march because it was in Dublin, but they were walking from some
Yeah.
memorial and they had the bagpipes and everything.
Oh, they don't do proper marches up here in Northern Ireland. We do proper marches, proper sectarian marches. Don't even know why they're marching, but they're marching somewhere. Someone's offended. Somewhere's protesting. There's police. There's riot gear. Like, we do it proper.
Well, I watched. They had on Netflix. They have Dairy Girls, which takes place early '90s.
Oh, what'd you think of that? That's so nostalgic. That show is so nostalgic. That's my hometown. Or when I grew up.
So it's actually relatively accurate. You're saying?
100% spot on. It shouldn't be as accurate as it is. So yeah, it's really good, really well written too. I thought. I haven't seen all of it yet, but no, that's some good. So it is. It's split the town, by the way. Half the people here think it's utter, and the other half think it's the most spot on thing ever. So you know it's doing something right when you get split down the middle. You know.
Well, is it the one side that says Londonderry and the other side that just says Derry?
Oh yeah, let's not get into that. Like that's.
I was recently. There's a wonderful. If people have not checked, there's a wonderful page which you can get to by typing WP:lame into the Wikipedia search box, and it leads to Wikipedia's wonderful article about the lamest edit wars on Wikipedia, and a frightening number of the first entries are perhaps understandably all about nationalistic stuff. So there's like questions of like whether lists should be Hungarian or like whatever. Lots of Eastern European stuff, understandably. But there's also an entry for Londonderry, which I think the end result was it's categorized as Londonderry, but there's like some specific nomenclature they use every time they mention Londonderry that it's it's called dairy everywhere else. Weird stuff like that. Like there's a big fight about whether yogurt is spelled with an H or not. It's great Wikipedia stuff.
Well, the town's officially called Londonderry, but the council changed their name to it's Derry City Council. So basically, it's divided. If you come from one community, you call it Derry. You go from another community, you call it Londonderry, and it's very split. Basically, it's very identifiable. But the thing is, what's really funny is that in the BBC, they always try to appease both sides. So they have a calling it Derry stroke Londonderry, and every time they were talking about it, it was always Derry stroke Londonderry. And one of the local radio presenters, suggested, why not just call it Stroke City? Because it's always Derry stroke Londonderry. You know what I mean? It was such a who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Call it whatever you're comfortable with. You know what I mean? Like. But some people are very up in arms about it. Honestly, it motivates people to be ignorant and angry. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to upset anyone. Call it what you want. We all know what you're talking about anyway. You know. But no, it does tie into some of the silly stuff that people get into. The tribalism that's kind of beset around here. Let's not talk about that.
This
Happy
has been
times,
the Danny
my
Politics
God.
Hour.
But yeah, that's Dairy Girls is a good wee show. Like it's fantastic. So it is. It's stupid. It's over the top, and it gives you a good taste for what local life's around here back then.
This has been Remember When with Danny. Well, it's a good thing. I think we covered all the Outpost Discovery stuff though. Yeah. I mean, it was fun. It was great seeing. I mean, I hadn't seen Dust since PAX 2014, and I had not. I had met Halo Fan for Life there too, but I had not met any of the other guys.
I would like to meet you, all of you, someday.
One day.
Do the old handshake, buy a drink of water or whatever.
Sign the napkin.
Sign the napkin.
Yeah. So hopefully it goes even better at Chicago, and hopefully for the people who didn't get it this year, they'll expand it internationally. I mean,
I also hope so. Yeah.
there's at least. I mean, there's the UK and
Mexico.
Mexico, and those seem like obvious places if you're going to go international with it. Those are the other places Halo fans are.
It sounds like a really fun thing to go see, but I don't think it'd be worth a big trip to go see it. You know what I mean? If it's nearby, you know, there's no excuse not to if you're a Halo fan by the sounds of it. But whether or not it's worth taking a trip international, I don't think you've made it sound like it would be.
I mean,
you know,
realistically, I think, especially if you went on like a Friday, you could get everything done in a day. You do not. I don't think they ultimately justified a full 3-day experience. Unless you were really interested in like getting all the autographs, and like if you were bought a VIP ticket, you got to hang out with the VIP lounge, so you got to hang out with 343 people and stuff like that. But yeah, I think if they're gonna do it next year, they have to come up with. I think like Dust has shown, hey, put a lot more community stuff in it. That's quote unquote free content for you, and it also engages the fan base, but also just more things.
Next year, the people might be more motivated as well. Maybe you think?
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely seems like
yeah.
they're interested in doing it again. This was the first time the events company had ever done something like this. I think their main thing is that they do the Harlem Globetrotters, so this was definitely a different wheelhouse, and so everyone was learning. But I'm hopeful. We'll see, because this has the potential to be the spiritual successor to Halo Fest, which I know a lot of people were missing.
Well, if it all depends on the feedback, it all depends on what the people think going into it. You know what I mean? So if it's improving as they go along, that's only a good thing.
Yeah. And so that wraps up this episode. We're gonna have a companion episode. We're gonna have Dust recorded the podcasting panel, so we'll release that as a standalone episode. And from the fact that we sound like we're underwater, you will get a sense of how loud it was, because he had to cut so much out of our voices to get it not a crazy loud thing. And I think you can still hear, like, maybe it's the community panel, maybe it's the the podcasting one, but I think you can just hear the honking of people playing like Husky Raid or something on the content stage, just honking their warthogs the entire time. It was loud. It was fun, but loud.
It adds color to it, sure.
Yeah, color. It makes you feel like it were there. And then we got some more stuff coming down the pipe. You can catch links and stuff that we talked to in this. Show notes will be at forwardandon.com/FUDcast30. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.